is discussed and utilized, and this man's passionate pursuit to tell her story. And then after we're done with these short scenes, we'll be able to ask the closest thing to Anne Frank you'll ever meet, Sophie Everette, how she feels about these. And I promise you, Sophie has lots of thoughts about this. Compulsion by Ryan Groff. This is the first scene, and what appears a marionette resembling Anne Frank is at work writing in her diary. She says,
"That's the difficulty in these times. Ideals, dreams, and cherished hopes rise within us, only to meet the horrible truth and be shattered. It's really a wonder that I haven't dropped all my ideals because they seem so absurd and impossible to carry out. Yet I keep them because, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear that ever-approaching thunder that will destroy us too. I can feel the suffering of millions. And yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think it will come out all right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again. In the meantime, I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps the time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. Yours, Anne M. Frank."
so you'll know that that's exactly from the diary. So then the marionette in the play stops, looks out to the audience and says,
"I shouldn't have told you that. I shouldn't tell you anything from my diary, really, because I don't hold the copyright. Especially not when quoting material in a play. In the theater, you've got to be very careful what you say in the theater. It can lead to litigation."
So that's how the play opens. So Act 1, in America, 1951 to 1958. We find ourselves at a publishing house, and you're going to meet Mr. Silver, who is played by Donn Youngstrom, and Miss Merman, who is works at the publishing house, and a Mr. Harris, who I will be playing. The scene begins with the marionette Anne Frank reading a review that Silver wrote of the diary.
"The child behind the secret door, an adolescent girl's own story of how she hid for 2 years during Nazi terror," by Sid Silver. Anne Frank's diary is too tenderly intimate a book to be frozen with the label classic, and yet no lesser designation serves, for little Anne Frank, spirited, moody, witty, self-doubting, succeeded in communicating in virtually perfect or classic form the drama of puberty. But her book is not a classic to be left on a library shelf. It is a warm and stirring confession to be read over and over for insight and enjoyment.
Lights up on Merman's desk at the publishing house as Merman reads from the inside flap of a proof. The Anne Frank marionette exits.
"One forgets the double significance of this document in experiencing it as an intimate whole, for one feels the presence of this child-becoming woman as warmly as though she was snuggled on a nearby sofa."
Sounds nice. Makes me want to buy a copy. Is that layout final?
Already at the printer, with your words right there on the inside flap.
Why not my name?
They hardly ever put names. This is Mr. Harris. He's in charge of the subsidiary rights department.
Oh, rights. All right, yeah. I don't have anything definitive to report on that front. I was focusing all my attention on the review, but I have several good leads. And now that the book is selling so well...
He doesn't know.
Know what?
Mr. Harris is referring to the interest in the dramatic rights to the diary. I forgot who knows what. Everything's moving so fast. I have a list of potential producers. I almost have a waiting list.
All the top people, theater, film, radio, we'll even sell radio.
Well, let's have a look at this list.
We already have. We've narrowed it down considerably.
Without me.
Yes.
Not to be pushy, but Mr. Frank authorized me to be his representative in the sale of the theatrical rights.
Mr. Frank led us to believe that you didn't feel comfortable accepting the full agent fee.
I never wanted an agent's fee at all.
Well, we're glad to hear that, because these are complicated matters, and with all due respect, ones in which you have no expertise.
No, in Paris, when I first met him and told him that his daughter's book could make a wonderful play, that beginning, he couldn't see it. I had to convince him. I left that meeting with his blessing to make it happen. The first step was the book publication in English, which I secured.
Which you secured? We have a man in Europe who signed a contract with Frank.
Through your assistance.
Assistance? We published the book.
And what about the review? My goddamn review is what made her diary a hit. Or else you would have looking at shitty 3,000 copies tops. That's not what I meant. Anne's book. Anne.
Indeed. Because that's an insult to a young Jewess who wrote a heck of a diary.
Mr. Harris, I would lay down my life to serve this book and all that it represents to the Jewish people. I would sacrifice everything and ask for nothing in return. But my review, come on, tell it.
Mr. Silver's review helped the diary very much. Our only goal is to advise Otto, Mr. Frank, who confesses to know nothing of any of these producers.
Mr. Frank has already seen this list.
This reminds me of that slight disagreement you had with Mr. Frank as to the Jewish sphere, I think he called it, how that aspect is more in the background for him.
Yes, that's the background. That it's a Jewish story. He disagrees about that?
He was quite clear, as you recall, that he didn't want a Jewish person writing the introduction.
It is our duty to Mr. Frank and his daughter to select someone whose mind, whose heart is in the right place.
Every single person rallying to be involved in this project loves the project. They believe in it. Everyone.
But what do they love about the project? What do they believe?
I wish there was a way that we didn't have to concern ourselves with the religion of the producer.
Amen. That kind of discrimination is not what Doubleday wants to be known for.
I agree completely. But some of these people...
Anne herself wasn't a Zionist.
No. I would just hate for any political concerns to jeopardize the fate of Anne's play.
Next scene, we move ahead quite a bit. It's in the 50s, late at night. It's in a beach house in Fire Island. Eve will become Mrs. Silver, Mr. Silver's wife. It's the end of summer. Silver is busily working on the play he was not officially commissioned to write yet.
You want to get rid of me so you can continue working. I will not stand for it. I wish sometimes I had never given you her book.
Don't say that.
I'm very jealous that my husband is in love with another woman. But she cannot make love to you.
They say I've got an excellent handle on the structure, but I want to make it stronger before putting it out there.
Handle sounds like a teapot. Otto must make an approval also.
He already said he loved my radio play script. He'll love the stage version too.
But if he does not, may he demand revision?
The details of every possible response haven't been worked out like that.
You have a contract that indicates certain things. What does it indicate?
There's a standard contract, guild contract between producer and adapter.
But for Otto, he gave you a contract also through this guild. You do not have a contract?
Don't look at me that way. You don't understand how these things work.
No, my understanding is that you must need a contract. Believe these words. You are indeed a true and respected, a famous writer.
Not famous enough.
Famous enough for what?
That we would never have to worry again.
I know no such place as this, where one never has to worry.
It's not just about money. It's having to prove all over each and every time.
Prove to whom?
You're right, to myself. But it's more than that. This book, it's the gift I've been waiting for. For me to do this work now makes sense of everything, redeems it.
I am pleased if you are pleased.
It's not about pleasure. It's deeper than pleasure. This is my faith. Like every single thing in my life, every choice I made or didn't make. My parents, the old neighborhood, meeting you. It's all been leading me to this moment so I could bring her words to the largest possible audience.
I know. This is your goal now.
She wrote in her diary that she wanted to live on after her death. Maybe I can live on with her.
I think tomorrow you travel back to the city and you discover who needs to sign where and what on these contracts.
I can't waste the day.
Next scene, back to New York City, back with Merman. This is Merman at Doubleday and Silver. Producers have rejected Silver's play, looking for other writers.
I'm so sorry it didn't work out. I know it's a tough nut. I imagine that you would say that a full-length stage play for a regular audience has different requirements.
A regular audience. Like if the Jews embrace a work of art, it somehow becomes tainted for everyone else. She's already offered it to other writers.
You must be disappointed. Know that Otto is too.
But she can't change her mind willy-nilly like a schoolgirl.
You told her that you would step aside if she wasn't completely happy with your adaptation.
But that's because she was happy.
Was.
I'm not going to lie down and roll over like a dog. Is that what you're expecting me to do? Two. I thought you were on my side.
I am on your side. The smartest thing you can do right now is accept the settlement while it's still on the table. It has generous terms, especially considering you don't even have a signed contract.
I need to see my lawyer.
We move on to the next scene. Both Merman and Silver again. Now no producers for Silver's adaptation at all.
It's not our fault that you couldn't find a producer. It would have been a miracle if someone had stepped up.
So you admit it was a setup. That's a story for the press.
No setup was required. Why would any producer in his right mind take on an incomplete script by a novice theater writer and one who's getting himself an awful reputation?
Who's been giving an awful reputation by you and these Goyish nobodies you've hired to write my play?
Francis and Albert Hackett wrote It's a Wonderful Life, Father of the Bride. Nobodies?
Screenwriters, the Hacketts of Hollywood.
They're
They're nobodies in the theater.
They're successful, which is maybe why you have such a pathological hatred of them.
I hate them because they stole my career.
They don't want your career, especially not now, the way you're tarnishing it with this controversy. And taking it to the press will only make it worse.
I don't care.
What kind of person doesn't care?
The Jew. The Jew doesn't care. You want me to be the Jew since you're too self-loathing for the part? I'll be the biggest Jew you ever saw. Even if I lose everything, I am willing to lose everything.
In order to be the Jew.
In order to see this through to the end.
You've already hit the end.
No. You'll see how it's just beginning. The Holocaust. Ever heard of it?
I've heard of it quite enough from you.
Not nearly enough, because I want you to listen very closely now. The Holocaust. The Holocaust. The Holocaust. The Holocaust!
We move to Act 2, several years later. He self-exiled himself to Israel. An Israeli director's friend agrees to a reading in their home, the Silvers' home, of Silver's adaptation. He's not allowed to produce his play outside of the home. In this next scene, we have Mrs. Silver and Mr. Silver directly after that reading.
It was great, Sid.
That's nice of you to say.
Sid, it was great. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy playing Otto Frank?
What a terrible idea that was. I hated it.
Good.
And the whole thing started so badly that Mr. Van Dam missing all his cues. Oh, okay. Was he dyslexic?
He had some nice moments.
Did you feel that moment when it caught fire?
I think so.
It was a feeling of, I don't know, finally.
Complete? Wasn't that the idea? He made it happen. And you know, like a weight lifted from your shoulders, like an evil sucked out of your blood.
He wants to do another reading with his army kids, you know.
They can't.
Who says they can't?
Agreements which you signed say they can't. Doing it in the privacy of our home is one thing. No one can prevent you in your home.
Israel is our home. That's all the privacy I need.
One reading and another. Where do you stop?
Not my problem. If someone else tries to tear down what we build, that doesn't stop us from building it. No, we build.
This is a play we're talking about.
This is my creativity in full flower.
All the people who love you, other than me, everyone will tell you. It's good, it's fine. It's not your best work.
It's my only work.
False. It's the only work that is not yours. Does he know that? Does he know that you signed all the rights over to Otto Frank?
I can't even remember the details of some document I signed under false pretenses.
Then go look at it.
We can make our own documents now. Written in action, not ink. Written in our blood and tears and sweat. Facts on the ground in real time, not pieces of paper.
We fast forward to the end of the play, the last time these two meet. Merriman has just been divorced, and she has just spoken to her former husband, who has told her that Mr. Silver, Sid Silver, is dead. He's not dead, he's sick. He has sued Otto Frank, and since, as I mentioned before, called Otto Frank Hitler. He has spent his life's time and his work and his money on the pursuit of this litigation.
What's wrong?
Oh, God. I knew it wasn't true. That asshole. But if you're here to make a scene, it's too late.
No scenes.
Please don't say that.
Why not?
Because it proves he wasn't lying. You are dead.
No. I'm still in the process of dying. It's taking me a little while to go. Hey.
Silver fetches the Sid Silver marionette dressed exactly as he is dressed now. He holds it out to her. It's rather lifeless looking, with no one controlling its strings.
I brought you something.
It looks creepy.
Don't say that. I worked hard on this my whole life. It's for you.
I don't want it.
You're stuck with it.
Is dying very painful?
Would you believe I'm more at peace than I felt in years? I'm in my bed, in my house, the place I love. Miss Merman. No, you're not a miss anymore, are you? Not for a long time.
No, I am. My divorce was finalized. I'm Miss Merman again.
Pleased to meet you, Miss Merman. I've got a heck of a manuscript I'd like to show you. Knock your socks off. Change your life.
The Anne Frank marionette is revealed. She enters to the Silver marionette. Silver and Merman remain on stage voicing the marionettes.
Hello.
Oh my, look at you. You look so old.
I'm 52. That's not so bad.
I always loved you. From the first moment we met in France.
You are such a flirt. Even on your deathbed. Still that thing for younger women.
But now that I'm 75 and soon you'll be 53, it doesn't seem so inappropriate anymore. And it'll just get more appropriate as the years go on.
I don't know what my father will say about that.
If I apologize to him?
Too late, Silver.
But I am sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you think you're an example?
An example of what?
I'm surprised at you. You said before that you could quote it by heart. If we live through this, and if there are still Jews left when it is over, other peoples will learn good. Do you think you are an example?
You put me to shame.
Oh, that's what all the boys say.
The silver marionette reaches for the Anne marionette,
And
calming him. She sits by his side.
You want to hear something really crazy? In spite of everything,